It's time for the Car Doctor on AM 950 WROL. Got a car question? Call us at 617-770-3030. That's 617-770-3030. Now, here's the Car Doctor, John Paul, on AM 950 WROL, the spirit of Boston.
And good Saturday morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Car Doctor program on AM 950 WROL, the spirit of Boston. My name's John Paul, the Car Doctor, here to help you with your car problems on this Saturday morning. Well, it's depending where you are. It's a rainy Saturday morning. It's here at Marina Bay. It's been thunder, lightning, doing all kinds of nasty stuff. And but it looks like it's calmed down a little bit, and that's what it looks like for the rest of the weekend. Some odd weather coming up, so we'll hopefully you're someplace where you're dry and you can do a few things. Remember, coming up July 14th is the Bay State Antique Auto Club Auto Show. And that's always a great show. It's the one I always pretend I'm going to go to and never go because I'm usually on vacation that week. And but it is I have been a bunch of times, and it is a really good show. It's right at the Endicott Estate in Dedham, and it's just a good show. And if you have a car that you want to have judged, you have to be there by 10 o'clock to be judged. Vendor registration is at 6. Auto registration's at 7, judging begins at 10:30, and trophy presentation happens at 2. There is limited on-street parking, but there is an off-street site right down the street, and you can either go park and walk, or park and take a school bus. And it's a free shuttle. It's inexpensive to go. They have breakfast, lunch, hot dogs, hamburgers, sausages, pulled pork, chicken tenders. Wow, he could actually pretty good lunch. And music provided by Cousin Bruce Palmer, who I know. So one of these days I'm going to have him on the show, and his claim to fame is last year he had a lift put in his house so he can work on his cars. Hey, with us on the phone is Larry Rubenstein. Larry was on a few weeks ago. And since the time you were on, Larry, your shop has become AAA approved, right?
Yes, sir.
And that was something that years back you were considering it, and I think there was some restriction along the way. But when a shop becomes AAA approved, some people think it's like we just wave a certificate in front of you and it's good. But we look for things like ASE certification, and we write to your customers and find out how you're doing. Were you at all surprised about how thorough it was?
Yes, John. Years back when I had looked at it, there were a few requirements that AAA had that didn't really suit the way that I ran my shop. Not that they were bad or they were wrong. It just wasn't our cup of tea.
Right.
And then things changed. Certain specialized fields became a non-requirement at that time.
Yep.
And, it's something I've been toying around. I've been a AAA member, since my son got his driver's license many years ago. And it's something I wanted him to have, kind of a safety net. Mm-hmm. It's something I suggest all parents, give their kids back in the day when cell phones were for everybody. When my son got his driver's license, gave him a cell phone and said, every call home is free. The other ones you pay for.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing. I'm going to give you a AAA card. So these are safety nets I think everybody should have. So I've been a AAA member now for many years, and as we looked at how AAA has progressed as time has gone on, and I'm sure that you know, John, but many people may not, that AAA is actually 117 years old now. They started off in 1902.
Yeah, almost as old as me.
I'm sure you remember, and I remember when they first opened it.
Yeah. But no, we've been around a long time, and I just wanted to get you on and kind of congratulate you for hanging the AAA sign out in front of the building. And the other thing is, Today's cars are getting more and more sophisticated, harder to repair. But last week we had old buddy Junior D'Amato on, and he was saying one of the things he's still seeing in his shop every single day is people coming in and they're not doing the basics. Cars coming in with no oil in them. Cars coming in with antifreeze that's been in the car for 10 years. So you still, up on the North Shore, you're still seeing lack of maintenance with a lot of people?
Well, of course, we still are, and I blame a lot of this on the manufacturer and on the advertisements. I mean, as you know, they call it permanent antifreeze. Well, that's the client. Well, I don't have to do anything. And a lot of people buy the cars thinking, okay, I'm buying it, that's it, and I'll just put in gas and drive. And the salesman and the manufacturer give them that good feeling. And unfortunately, that's not true. When you pull a valve cover off of a car and you see there's 20 tons of coke and gunk in there, the car hasn't been taken care of. And, unfortunately, John, it's becoming a throwaway world. And more engines are being replaced versus being fixed. It's costing the consumer a lot of money. And being affiliated with an organization like AAA, it's a great opportunity to get the word out there about maintenance. I always joked years back, I used to tell people the best place to keep the owner's manual is in the bathroom, because that's probably the only place you're going to be sitting down and reading it, because nobody wants to read it. But when you find out what it takes to keep your car going, there's no reason in today's world why you can't get 300,000 miles out of your car.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And it's funny. I always say the best looking part of a car in a junkyard is the owner's manual.
You are so right. They don't even take them out of that cute little vinyl binder that they indeed come in. But improvements that we've seen today is there's a lot on YouTube. Virtually almost everybody has a computer, maybe 95%. And, if you have a 2005 Chevy Impala and you Google 2005 Chevy Impala problems, there's so much on there. And there is no reason why cars have to be disposed of so early. And cars are getting better.
Yeah.
They truly are. Last week we had the opportunity to work on, John, we were working on a 1979 Firebird Trans Am.
Ah.
Gorgeous car, came out of the Mecum auction.
Yeah.
And really horrible story. The gentleman said that the driver's seatbelt won't retract. So my job was to tear it down and see what's going on. And what I found is that the former owner had put a wad of painter's tape inside of the retractor so that it wouldn't catch in case it pulled forward. That little lever couldn't go up, really putting the driver in harm's way of security. We did find a full set of seatbelts, though. A good website I had never known, for anybody that has older cars, older GM muscle cars, it's called Year One.
Yeah, they've been around, and they have, for certain cars, they have almost unlimited parts supply. Both, they manage to come up with reproductions and original equipment. Yeah, they're an interesting company.
It was really fantastic. What we got was exactly what that car, the Chevy Camaro, had. It was really great. But getting back to AAA, John, to hitch my wagon to a group that has done so much good for so many people in the most rotten emergency situations, be it out of gas, a car lockout, a flat tire, a breakdown. I mean, they're like the guardian angels of the highway, man.
Yeah, we try. We certainly try, that's for sure. You're talking about a throwaway society. I was talking to a guy from New Jersey this week, and he had a 2012 BMW 330 convertible, and it had an engine knock in it. And he took it to the dealer, and the dealer charged him $300 to diagnose it, and they said it sounded like a lower engine knock, so a bearing of some sort. They pulled the plugs out of it, and they said the number 4 cylinder looked like there was an excessive amount of oil. And they said, well, it needs an engine. And the guy owes $16,000 on it, and the dealer told him that, well, we can fix it. It's going to be about $22,000 to fix it. And I said to him, I don't know what your plans are with the car, but first off, do you have any oil consumption problems? He's like, no, I don't have any oil. So I said, the oil on top of the piston has me, is it oil or is it carbon buildup? And I said, maybe what they're seeing is really carbon on top of the piston, and that's your noise. But he had somebody call me back a few days later. He had somebody else, they really decided it sounded like it was the number 4 rod maybe making some noise. And he said he checked everywhere. Nobody's willing to pull the engine apart and pull that piston out to see what's really going on. Everybody just wants to put a new or a used engine in it.
That is very much it. I went to a class. We try to attend several classes a year, and the speaker, teacher, if you will, told a story about how nowadays the manufacturer does not want to pay the technicians to diagnose the problems. They said, well, try putting in a fuel injector, try doing this, try doing that, rather than diagnose problems. And that's scary, John.
Yep.
That's really, really bad the way that this is going today. And this follows right in line with what you're saying. It's a throwaway society.
Yeah.
So they're throwing fuel injectors at it, they're throwing coils at it and things like that. And it turned out it was just a bad ECT, electronic coolant temp sensor. And they're throwing all these parts at it. And a good tech who gets in there with a scanner could have seen that it was stuck at minus 40.
Yeah. No.
It's getting really, really silly out there. So a good tech or somebody that is thinking about getting into the trade, if you're willing to do your homework, you can write your own check. I mean, it's just really getting wide open.
Yeah, it really is, and when I talked to you this week, you said you were busy. The shop was busy. It's summertime. It's the time of year where people want to go on their summer vacations and travel around and see what's going on, and it is it's really that time of year that shops are going to get busy. And I don't care what shop I go into, just about everybody's looking for a good technician. And even if they're not quite ready to hire them yet, it's almost like they'll take them because they're like, I know we're going to get busier. We might lose somebody somewhere along the line. Either way, it's we need to really think about making sure we have the right people, and you have the right people because you made your own, right?
Yeah, every single one of the techs that I took in were ones that had a basic knowledge.
Yep.
And then, well, call it like clay. Then we kind of formed them, schooled them, trained them, and they're doing things in a way that I want to have things done. I want the cars to go out right. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to keep coming back to have the same device or repair on the car fixed twice. Now the problem is that there's many symptoms that look like the same thing. I mean, listen, John, I'm sure that you've seen it too. Somebody could have a code 303, and it's a bad coil on cylinder 3. It turns on a check engine light. That's what the customer knows. He goes out a month later, and his oxygen sensor, bank 1, sensor 2, turns on a check engine light. So we're faced with that. The customer says, you just fixed my car. The check engine light's back on. So, I mean, people have to realize that, and that's why at my shop we have many mock-ups, many displays for the customer to see these are the things that can cause your car to have problems. And John, it's a learning process both for the consumer and for us as techs.
Yeah, no, it really is, and there's the guy who he used to own a shop out in the Midwest, and he writes for a bunch of magazines. Scott Gonzo Weaver. He's been on the show a bunch of times, and he wrote a book called. And I'm sure you may have joked about this before. That when somebody comes in with a problem, sometimes you're like, the real problem is a loose nut behind the wheel. And that was the name of his book. But yeah, sometimes it really is education between you and the customer, explaining to them, okay, here's what we see, here's what we think it is based on what we see, and what we see is wrong. Is it going to fix your problem? We don't know yet, but we know that's broken, so we have to start with the most obvious thing. And sometimes all it takes is a good explanation, right?
John, you are almost quoting me word for word. When you get a customer that comes in with a problem, that's right, and say, listen, before I can go any further, we have to fix this. I can't go at all one step further till this is fixed. Then we can look at the rest of it.
Yeah, no, it really is. Let's tell everybody where your shop is.
Oh, thanks, John. Yes, sir. We're located at 218 Newbury Street in Peabody, Massachusetts. That's right on Route 1 South. Just after the Lowell Street exit. If you happen to be broken down in that area, the AAA tow truck will probably be more than happy to bring it to us, and we'll try to get you out of there for the least amount of money spent possible. That's always a goal. It's not about money. It's about making new friends.
Well, there you go. Hey, Larry, thanks for taking some time out of your Saturday morning. I know you. I hope you were heading to the dentist. I think you said this morning.
Yes.
So hopefully your dentist is a good diagnostician too.
Hey, John, what does the horn say on the dentist's car when he presses the button?
Tooth.
Tooth. All right, John.
All right.
Have a wonderful day.
All right. Take care, Larry. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Well, they can't all be. Where's the expression come from? All of a sudden, now they're all dad jokes.
Because dads make the
stupidest jokes.
Stupidest jokes.
Yeah, they're
most cringeworthy jokes.
They used to be. Those used to be on Dixie cups.
Yes, they were.
Yeah,
Dixie cups or those cups. Sometimes you'd get out of the old school bowling soda fountains.
Oh yeah, yep. No, down towards Whitman, there's an insurance company, and they have one side of the sign is the joke, and the other side is the punchline, and they're all like that. And every once in a while I drive by it, I have to look in the rearview mirror and go, and then I look at it and I go, I still look at it. I don't know what it is. Why don't we take a quick break to pay some bills? I want to thank Larry for joining us this morning. When we come back, we're going to play a little bit of trivia and a little bit, kind of focused a little bit maybe on what Larry was talking about the car he was working on. My name's John Paul. This is the Car Doctor program. My phone number is 617-770-3030. Write it down. You might need it. We'll be right back.
Drove off in a brand new Cadillac. Slow down, Jaguar. Keep cool, Thunderbird full. 10-mile stretch on the Indiana road with a Sky Blue Jaguar and a Thunderbird full. Jaguar sitting on 99, trying to beat the bird to the county line. Just a half a mile from Newtonville at a speed.
And welcome back to the Car Doctor program on AM 950 WROL, the Spirit of Boston. Remember, you can find old Car Doctor programs on. Is it called iTunes anymore? What are they calling it now?
I missed the whole release of that. I've been going through so much I can't even think of what it's called right now.
Yeah, it's something. I don't know. Like they did away. They said, "Oh, we're doing away with iTunes," but we're not really doing away with iTunes. But now all of a sudden, where it said iTunes on my phone, it says Apple TV or something. Something new appeared one night when I woke up. There's something, but wherever iTunes used to be. Also, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio now. You can find us there, although iHeartRadio runs commercials during my show. And you can also go to YouTube. You can find my YouTube channel somehow, and you can look at, nothing actually, but it's, but you can listen. You can listen on YouTube. So you can do that because the Podbean, if you want to go direct, if you want to go to johnfpaul.podbean.com, allows me to post on YouTube, and I don't know why, but I go ahead and do it anyway. So there's a YouTube channel.
So on the Podbean, how long do the archives last?
Forever.
Really? There's not like a time frame? And
No, not according to. I pay a little bit of money to be on Podbean.
You what? Say
I
that
know.
again?
Yeah, I know. I pay a little bit of money to be on Podbean.
Wow.
Prior to that, I paid a little bit more money to be on Podomatic. But Podomatic would only give me X amount of storage space, which amounted to about 40 shows. So every time I'd add a new show, and once I maxed out 2 gigs of storage, it would say you're at the end of your storage. Buy more space. I mean, I don't want to buy. So I had to eliminate shows. Podbean has unlimited storage. Then there's also something called podcasts. So just PODCASTS. Boy, people are thrilled with this conversation.
I know. Aren't they?
And that also gives you unlimited storage, and it's free.
But
I don't know. I'm still waiting for the but. It's free. And it gives you some analytics. It doesn't give you the custom, like, if you want to call, where it's johnfpaul.podbean.com. And I suppose I could have done cardoctor.podbean, but I switched it over from the other one. They don't let you do that. It's podcast dot some John F. Paul 12 or something. So you can't customize your own little website sort of thing. Podomatic had a better page. It looked more like a professional page. Podbean isn't as fancy. If you want fancier, you have to pay more. But unlimited storage, and unlimited bandwidth. Not that I ever had anybody streaming 5,000 shows at one time, but still, if there's something you heard or you were interested in, you can find it. Couple you were interested in car shopping, and when we had the person on that owned the car dealership out in the Midwest a couple weeks ago, and she had her tips, and you're like, I'd like to see her book, that book, Buying Cars Her Way. I want to find out where to get it. And you could go back and find the old show, and you could find it. And on the site, I try to put pictures of who was on at one time. So, that's kind of how it all works. Well, I think it's time for early trivia.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I know. And, we were talking about AAA so much, and I got this fancy brochure that says, why join the AAA approved auto repair program? And that kind of reminded me of Larry, and everything went together. Just to give you some ideas, we talked quickly about the approved auto repair requirements. The facility must have at least one ASE or OEM certified technician for each area of service offered, maintain a formal training system to stay up to date on new automotive systems, train personnel to advise customers regarding repairs and services, comply with all local, state, and federal requirements. Customer satisfaction, we write to their customers, literally write to their customers, and we have to see at least a 95% or higher satisfaction score, and they have to maintain that score either electronically or through surveys, because we do it electronically. They have to offer at least, and this is what Larry was talking about earlier, they have to offer at least engine performance, minor engine repair, brakes, electrical system repair, tires, steering, and suspension. They have to offer that as a minimum. Originally, when we had the program, if you wanted to be part of the program, you needed to have an alignment machine. And now we allow sublet of that. So you can still offer steering and suspension work, and you have to say, well, we use the guy next door has an alignment machine, so we send it over there and they do the work for us, and that's okay now. Back when I did the program, that wasn't okay. Additionally, heating and air conditioning, major engine repair, automatic transmission, manual transmission, and engine performance for diesel. Facilities must have an acceptable community reputation and social media presence. So we actually we do a dive into their kind of community, how is their Yelp and their Facebook and all that stuff, and make sure that they're all okay. And then we do an attorney general's report. So we want to make sure they're good with the Attorney General's office, and we want to also make sure they have a minimum amount of general and garage liability, garage keepers legal liability, including bodily injury, property damage, workers' comp. So we want to make sure they're properly insured for themselves, for their workers and themselves, but also if something should happen to your car while it's in their custody or after a repair, they have the insurance to cover getting it fixed. So, that's what what they have to do. And then we do stuff for them. So when you get an online triptych, for instance, approved auto repair shops are listed in the triptych. So if you want to find something somewhere. So
They still do triptychs?
we still do triptychs. We still do it.
Do you still send them out in that nice little format where you could...
It's a little bit bigger. It's more twice the size of that now because they're actually printed on a printer, so they sort of fold in half of 8.5 by 11. So,
Wow.
But the old strip maps, we do, I would say, in our whole club footprint, the same amount of triptychs that we did in one busy office 25 years ago. Because everybody's got GPSs now, and whether it's in their phone or a standalone GPS, even standalone GPSs aren't that popular anymore because people are using their phones. I have 2 GPSs, an old one that I keep with me just in case, and a newer one that I believe is in Florida. So it doesn't do me any good at all. And then I have the one in my phone, which works pretty well. So...
Yeah, my friend just said that they just got triptychs for their trip to North Carolina.
Really? Well, thank you. But that is, that's one of the things that we still hear from people, and they still want triptychs, and they still want tour books, and so we still do that. Well, Larry talked about a Pontiac Trans Am that came into a shop. And there was a very famous Pontiac Trans Am, the Kit car, so Knight Rider. It was pretty famous, right?
I still say it's a Firebird, not a real Trans Am.
Yeah,
That's whatever.
Yeah. It wasn't, some would argue that Smokey and the Bandit, Kit, who's more famous? But in 2008-ish, I guess, there was a recreation of Knight Rider, and it was the Knight Industries 3000. So Kit was Knight Industries 2000. So because the world is not that creative, they said, what can we call the new car? So, what kind of car was the new Knight Rider 3000?
I know this, and I don't even have to cheat.
Really? Do you know exactly what it is?
Exactly, no.
No. Okay, so well,
Now
and
I
you
would have to cheat.
and you're sort of a fantasy sci-fi.
Sort of.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, kinda.
Okay.
Yeah. You maybe watch a little. I don't know. Would you call Knight Rider science fiction?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it's fiction and it's got some science.
Yes.
All right. Okay. All right. Yeah.
It's not like Die Hard, like like Star Wars or things like that, but yeah, it's definitely science fiction.
It's science fiction. Well, it's not science fact, I suppose.
Correct.
So that could be. But it's, although I will say in some science fiction though, there's a lot of reality or future reality sometimes that that science fiction from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s turned into reality at some.
Look at the original Star Trek series. That's all I got to say. They were the inspiration for our cardiac monitors now. They were the inspiration for cell phones. So yeah, you're right.
I still can't make anything in my replicator though.
No.
Why not?
Well, that's not entirely true.
Okay,
It's
3D
not
printing.
3D
fine.
printing.
Yeah, but it's not the same. I can't make.
I went to
I can't make an icy cold beer in there.
I went to a hotel. I was staying at a hotel a couple years ago in Hilton Head Island, and they had a thing where you pushed a button and it would make pancakes.
Okay, all right.
It was amazing. Perfectly made pancakes.
But if you went over to it and said waffles, you would probably get a pancake.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, even when I stayed in the when I went to the New York Auto Show this year, I stayed in the Yotel, which there is one in Boston now, a Yotel.
Yeah. What is that?
It's just it's a tiny hotel, and it's not a tiny hotel. It's a pretty big hotel, but the rooms are ship cabin like. So they're small rooms, and they're so have you've been on a cruise, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Envision a tiny cabin on a cruise ship, and that's sort of what the rooms are like.
No, I don't want to go stay there though.
Yeah. So I stayed in a queen-size room, which meant it had a queen-size bed, but during the day, the bed folded up to make a couch. And at night, you unfolded it because that's the only way it would fit in the room.
Is it comfortable?
It was actually pretty comfortable. And I will say, because I was going to the Javits Center, Jacob Javits in New York, it was about a 5 or 10 minute walk, so it was actually really convenient. And it was when like the Times Square hotels were $500 and $600 a night, the Yotel was $300, which was still stupid expensive, but the room was not as big as this studio. But it had
this is a big studio, but
yeah. But
I
it had
get it.
But it had a decent sized TV. It had a chair, just one. It had the bed that folded sort of into a couch. And it wasn't, I mean, it was, one of those adjustable platforms, but it literally slid up and kind of L-shaped. So during the day when they made the bed, it was kind of a place to sit when you came back to the room. When you slid the bed out, there wasn't a lot of room to walk around. And then there was a little tiny bathroom and a decent-sized shower, but the shower room was sort of separate from the bathroom part, and the door was like a barn door, and it either covered the shower or covered the other stuff. So
you couldn't do both at the same time.
No,
there's two of you in there.
Yeah. So it was it was a little unique in that way, but on the other hand, it was clean. When you went into the ground floor, and when you went into the ground floor, what happened was there was no people. So you went over to a kiosk. This is what reminded me of it. And you went over to the kiosk and you went, John Paul, and it would say, swipe your credit card. And then it would say, how many keys do you want? One. And the thing would make a little noise, and all of a sudden a key would pop out with your paperwork to tell you what room you were in. Then you took the elevator up to like the third floor, and there was actually people, like one or two people. I don't know what they did, though, because you already had a key at that point. And then if you were leaving for the day or leaving, but you wanted to leave your luggage there was a machine where you walked over and you put your little rolly bag or whatever you had, and an arm would come over, pick it up, put it in a locker behind a glass wall, and a little thing would pop out. And then when you came back 5 hours later, you went in and you scanned your little thing, and the machine would go over, go to the little door, pop out, and deliver your piece of luggage back to you.
Did it cost you any extra?
$5. Huh? But it didn't cost me any extra because I had a car in the parking garage.
Oh, okay.
So I said to the parking guy, can I just go throw my luggage in the car? He's like, yeah, sure. So, which actually, again, was pretty convenient. It worked out good. Let's talk to George. George, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
Good. Do you have the answer to the question yet?
I do not have the answer to the question yet.
Okay, it was the Shelby Mustang GT500.
It was the Shelby Mustang GT500. Here's the problem, though, George. You live in a part of Connecticut that I was going to give a AAA membership away, but you live in a part of Connecticut I can't give you a AAA membership because you're the other part of AAA over there. So I'm going to have to.
Well, you can give it. Okay.
So I'm going to come up with a different prize for you.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right.
I appreciate that.
All right, stay right there. Don't go away, and Dennis will take down your address, and we'll get that out to you.
Okay, I really appreciate it.
All right.
Have a nice weekend.
All right, you too, George. Thank you.
Yep.
That was George from West Hartford, Connecticut. So, because it says Hartford right on that on our electronic call receiver screen, it says West Hartford. So that's how I know, and so that's how we know. Anyway, so maybe since we didn't give the AAA membership away, maybe in a little bit we'll do another trivia question. Dennis loves trivia. Although I read something the other day in some radio website and it says you shouldn't do trivia anymore. Why? You shouldn't call it trivia. You should call it something else because that means it's trivial. I don't know. Ford preps its most powerful street car ever. Speaking of Ford Shelby Mustangs, the muscle car arms race is getting tighter at the top. Ford Motor Company's upcoming Mustang Shelby GT500, which was what the Knight Rider 3000 was, is now the company's most powerful street-legal vehicle ever built. It will boast 760 horsepower and 625 foot-pounds of torque. When it shows up in showrooms this fall, that's enough to blow past the 29 Chevrolet Camaro with its 630 horsepower. And although the Dodge Challenger SRT Hellcat Red Eye remains at the top with 797 horsepower, the GT500 will come with a single powertrain, a hand-built supercharged 5.2-liter V8 engine with a 7-speed automatic gearbox. Ford says it will achieve 0 to 60 times in the mid 3-second range. Melvin Battencourt, the vehicle's design manager, said everything from the A-pillar forward is new, including Ford's biggest ever hood scoop. So I don't know if bragging about a big hood scoop is a big deal, but this morning as we were coming to the radio station, I rode through the parking lot a little bit, and it kind of made me laugh. When we had the guy on from Cars.com a couple weeks ago, he was talking about the Ultimate Dad car, which was a Mercedes-Benz AMG E-Class wagon, 0 to 60 in like 3.5 seconds. And over in the parking lot here, there was one. So, just kind of made
Did I read something earlier this week that Camaro may be going off the market again?
Yeah, in a couple of years. They're saying like 2022, which I don't know what I don't know what that really means. I think they sell enough of them. They're iconic enough. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes away for a little while. Well, the new Corvette is coming out supposedly in the fall. So I bet they give a lot of attention to Corvette. They don't change the Camaro for a couple of years. They do away with the Camaro for a year or two, and then it comes back just like it did a bunch of years ago. So that's what I think. Our phone number, 617-770-3030, 617-770-3030. Our phone lines are open, by the way, if you'd like to join us and talk about your car problems, maybe your first car. What was your first car like? Mine was not great. Let's talk to Rick in Boston. Rick, good morning.
Hey there.
Hi there.
Well, I think the ultimate dad car is one that your kids can't drive.
Well, somebody said to me the ultimate dad car should only have one seat.
Well, yeah, that's a motorcycle that qualifies for that. So,
well, it's kind of funny. You just mentioned that, and it reminded me. A young guy that I work with just had a son, I don't know, 6 or 8 months ago or a year ago or something, and he was kind of looking for something different.
Probably like 10.
Probably 10 years ago, yeah. He's not that old, so he couldn't have been that long ago. But he just bought a motorcycle, which one of my coworkers like, but he's a dad. Why should he be buying? But he bought an old Kawasaki, and he wants to turn it into sort of a cafe racer. So because he's all Photoshoppy, he took a picture of it and then Photoshopped what he wants it to look like. And he was asking me my opinion about his design. He actually has a good eye. So, but anyway, and that way he figures he can go out and ride by himself and leave his wife and his son home. So, anyway, what's up, Rick?
Here's my question for you. And that yesterday when I was coming home, I was coming up on the intersection, the light where I make a left-hand turn to go down the road I live on, and about 350 feet before I got to the light, I put my turn signal on, saying I'm turning left-hand, making a left-hand turn. I'm on my motorcycle, and I went a few feet farther forward and stopped because there was a red light, and I had to wait. Well, the light turned green. I moved forward, got to the road, and stopped, and the car behind me had to slam on their brakes because they weren't paying attention. And I told that to somebody, and they said, well, you put your turn signals on way too early. And I'm saying, like, 350 feet is not too early. What's your opinion, and what does AAA say for safety reasons? Am I right or wrong?
You're right-ish. 350 might be a little early, but not too much early. And you use your turn signals when you need to use them. So, for instance, if, as an example, if there was a intersection up 300 feet and a gas station up 150 feet, you might confuse somebody because if you put your turn signal on that early, they might think you're pulling into the gas station, not going up to the intersection. But where you are, warning someone ahead of time, and I think if you looked in a driver's manual, I believe they actually say put on your turn signal about 150 or 200 feet ahead. So you might have been a little early, but not a lot early. Early warning's better than no warning, which is what happens most of the time.
Yeah, well, when that car slammed on their brakes because I'm on my motorcycle, I'm going, it's like.
But you had your turn signal on, so either way, even if you said you put it on too early, and the person slammed their brakes on, they weren't paying attention, and that's what it comes down to.
I'm just going to play devil advocate.
Yeah, I know that part, but
Well, Dennis is going to play the devil here. So
the devil's advocate here. So I've been behind many a motorcycle list, and I'm very cautious behind them because I have a lot of friends who ride bikes. Oftentimes, though, bikers forget to turn off their signal.
Well, that is true.
So you could be riding behind a motorcycle for 2-3 miles, and all of a sudden they turn. But
does your fancy Indian self-cancel? Do the turn signals shut off?
No, but
you have to.
Motorcyclists do have a hand signal for other motorcyclists, and that's where you hold your hand up and you open and shut it, and that means that's supposed to tells you that your turn signals are on.
Oh, I guess I knew that because I was in a this was years and years ago. I was in a Honda 2000, little sporty Honda car, and a little convertible, and a guy in a motorcycle pulled up next to me, and he did that. And I'm like, and I wasn't quite sure, but it was funny. The way I thought of it afterwards is if you think of an old-fashioned turn signal flasher, which is the thing that plugs into the fuse box, and it's a set of contacts that opens and closes. I was kind of going, oh yeah, he's making like the little contact. Click open, click close, click open, but it really meant I left my turn signal on. But that's interesting. Do you do the down low wave too, or is that just the Harley riders?
Well, I actually where I grew up, it was you lifted it up, up in New York, when you wave to other bikers, you lifted your hand up high, and I still do that.
Oh, okay.
And that.
All right.
And that, it all depends on the area of country you're from, and that.
Special code.
And that, but
I think back to your original question. In all seriousness, I think that using your turn signal appropriately is so important today because people are distracted. They're not paying attention. And the more you can warn people, whether it's hitting the brakes easy a couple times to flash your brake light so they know what's going on. All those things are important. So.
Well, actually, I'll tell you, I don't know whether it's legal, whether it's good or not, but it's something that I do. When I go into a traffic circle, I put my left turn signal on, so I got the yellow lights on my left-hand side of my bike flashing. And then once I get in it, I turn it off and get ready to turn for a right-hand signal that I'm getting ready to.
Well, people would be a lot less confused in rotaries and roundabouts if they just use their turn signal, so you know where people are going. Yeah. No, you're actually supposed to, as you're entering the rotary, put your right turn signal on. If you're moving over to the tighter part of the rotary, you put your left turn signal on to move to the tighter part. If you're moving off to the right because you're moving back off one of the legs of the rotary, you're supposed to use your turn signal. That's what they're for. But people forget.
Yeah, no, I do use the turn signal getting off in that, but I actually put my left on just to try to make myself a little more visible for the people that are in the rotary when I go in there.
Yep, I agree with you.
That's on my motorcycle. On my car, forget it.
Do it in your car, too. It's okay. Hey, Rick, always great talking to you.
Okay, have a good one, John. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye. 617-770-3030, 617-770-3030. Let's talk to Brian. Brian.
Hey, how are you, John?
Good. How are you?
Doing excellent. So here's my question. I've seen conflicting reports online for this, but my 16-year-old has a learner's permit in Mass.
Mm-hmm.
Can she drive out of state?
There are reciprocal agreements with most of the states. So if you were driving from here to, and there is a way to look, and I'm not sure. I should know this. It may be in drivinglaws.aaa.com. But I remember looking. Somebody asked me once, I want to take my grandson from here to Florida. Who has his learner's permit? Can he drive from here to Florida with the learner's permit as long as I'm in the front seat? And New York City, no. New York State, yes, but not the city. They have their own rules. Washington, D.C., no. Virginia, yes. One of the Carolinas was a yes. I don't remember which one. So it really depends from state to state, because in some states, like New York City, for instance, you can't get a learner's permit until you're 18. So, yeah, they restrict when you can get your license in the city for whatever reason. So there are certain rules that will apply, but in neighboring states, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Rhode Island, Connecticut, not a problem.
Okay. Yeah, we're heading to North Carolina for the summer, and that's my thought was she could drive down there. But I will check the website.
Yeah. I think we have it listed. There's a lot of stuff in. It's drivinglaws.aaa.com. So look around in that.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye. Our phone number is 617-770-3030, 617-770-3030. Want to take a break? Is that what you want to do? And when we come back, you're getting a new car. I want to talk about that experience, because a month ago it wasn't going so good.
No.
And let's see why it got better. Maybe you learned something.
Maybe.
I don't know. Our phone number is 617-770-3030 if you would like to join us on this rainy, cloudy, weird Saturday. We'll be right back.
Ideals I think are right, and I can stand beside the idea to stand and fight. I do believe there's a dream for everyone. This is our country. There's room enough here for science to live, and there's room enough here
And welcome back to the Car Doctor program on AM 950 WROL, the Spirit of Boston. I think I mentioned this last week. I did get my driver's license renewed at the AAA office, and it was a good experience. But I did get Real ID, so I'm official.
Which is not foolproof, as we found out this week.
That's right. But I did have Real ID. So, but it did. And the woman behind the counter said, I've asked her a couple times, what forms do I need? And she, takes out a thing and 2 of these, 3 of these. And I reread it all and got the right ones.
Yep,
and,
I have Real ID.
Yeah. And I renewed my driver's license literally 11 months early. Because next year, for year 2020, that's the year you're going to sort of require it if you're traveling domestically and you don't want to carry a passport. You're going to need the little Real ID star thing. And rather than wait until next year when my license expired, I decided I'll do it now. Well, it's not quite as busy, and it doesn't affect the expiration date. In 2020, when my license expired, it would expire again in 2025. I did it now. It still expires in 2025. So I went in there. Yes.
How does that work for minors? Do they need a passport, or when a 17-year-old gets their license, how do they get, if they need to get the Real ID, or do they need to?
I don't know. I don't know. Because you don't need a passport.
Well, if you're going to fly from state to state.
Yeah. So, but for instance, if a real minor, a 10-year-old.
Yeah, they don't require picture ID, but
So I don't know. You might need a passport. My coworker's son is going to Paris, because that's what 16-year-olds do now, apparently, is they go to Paris.
Sure.
And I guess they've had a passport for years. So, and when I'm sitting at the AAA office occasionally, the passport camera is the busiest thing in the office. There are more people getting passport pictures done. So, but you had, or still have, because it's out in the parking lot, a Nissan Rogue.
Star Wars Rogue One Edition.
I was going to let you do that part.
Which
some people will say is a little geeky.
I don't care if it's geeky. It was a marketing thing, and I hit my wheelhouse. And
and that's fine. Yeah. It was a great car up until about 8 months ago.
Yes.
And then it became a less than great car.
Yes.
Some rattles and squeaks and
I had to get
age-related things.
Age-related, but I had to get a sunroof replaced, like the entire sunroof replaced, and I don't see why that would be age-related. But
I have a coworker who has a BMW 540. He leases it. When he got it, it had a sunroof rattle. He took it to the dealer. They said, "Oh, we don't hear anything." He goes, "It rattles." So he took it back to the dealer, and they're like, "Oh, we don't hear anything." So he called BMW. They said, "Well, take it to a different dealer." Took it to a different dealer. They sort of fixed it. Still rattles. And now I don't know where it is with the car, because I wrote to BMW and said, the guy's got a legitimate complaint. It's got a rattle. And the fix was supposed to be take out the headliner, take out the sunroof, put epoxy or something into all the nuts and bolts that hold the sunroof cartridge in place, then reinstall it all, and it shouldn't rattle afterwards. I think they did part of it, but I don't think they did all of it, because it went from loud and constant to intermittent and relatively quiet. So your Nissan suffers the same fate as a BMW, I guess. So our phone number again, 617-770-3030, 617-770-3030. Lexus GX 460 gears up for safety on and off the road. The fresh in 2020 Lexus GX 460 SUV sports new looks up front, a new view underneath, and enhanced safety systems. The mid-cycle makeover for the Japanese brand's most rugged three-row SUV, because what is it? It's not really a car SUV. It's more of a truck SUV. So think 4Runner version of a truck. And but they're adding some things besides design. Lexus added the optional off-road package to the 2020 model available on the GX top-end luxury grade trim. The package adds transmission cooler, fuel tank protector, crawl control, and monitoring system that can display camera views on all the vehicle's surroundings, including terrain and tire location underneath the vehicle. I just wonder how many people drive off-road with a, I don't know, $60,000 Lexus, but maybe they do. Our phone number again, 617-770-3030. So, Dennis, you were, before we get to the calls, you had your Rogue Edition.
Yes.
And it was starting to get a little bit of problems. So you said rather than put up with the problems for the rest of the lease, and you lease, you decided they offered you a deal to come back in. Now, you were looking back a while ago, and you had a pretty poor experience.
Well, yeah, that was at a completely different dealership with a completely different manufacturer. It was for a Jeep. There was an advertiser for a Jeep Cherokee where if you put X amount of dollars down, it was Y amount of payments. And then if you wanted to put zero down, it was A amount of payments. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to call. I didn't call. I did a text messaging because I wanted it to be in writing because that's the way you can do it now. And I said, okay, is this really true zero down? And they were like, well, no, you have to qualify for this promotion and that promotion, and you'd still have to put down $3,000 even if you qualified for this promotion. I'm like, but you said zero down. Well, no one can really do zero down because of taxes and registration. And I'm like, I understand that I'd have to pay for the sales tax and registration. But when you say zero down, that means that you don't have to put down a down payment. Oh, no, you still have to put about $3,000 down on a down payment to get the really inexpensive rate. And I was like, that's just not right.
Yeah.
So this time I got a mailing in saying, hey, we have these for the Nissans. We have a couple different offers similar. You can get zero down, $95, or $3,000 down and get it for $95, or zero down and pay $195. And it said it was the real base model. So I went in. I'm like, I know it's the base model. I'm not going to get the base model because I do like a little bells and whistles. I mean, my car's, I don't drive it much, but I like to have things. So I went in thinking, okay, if they give it to me for like $100, maybe $150 more than what they're saying on this advertisement, then yeah, it's a no deal. I mean, it's a no-brainer, not no deal. It wasn't quite that inexpensive, but bottom line is that I put down $1,500, and I lowered my payments on my new Rogue that I'm picking up today, I believe. I lowered it by about $40 some odd a month.
Perfect.
So I still had 8 payments remaining.
Yep.
So you add all those payments together, subtract $1,500, and I'm saving a couple $1,000 over the next few months.
And one of your concerns was you have a little bit of body damage.
Yes.
And they didn't even look. They didn't even care.
Didn't even care. I think, I honestly believe because of my mileage being so low.
Yeah.
That
made up for it, yeah. Yeah, they could very well be. Our phone number, 617-770-3030. Let's talk to John in Peabody, I think. Dennis thinks. Good morning.
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yep. 2 questions. A 2006 4-cylinder Camry. What should the temperature be coming out of the air conditioner duct on high?
On high, it should be about 30 degrees cooler than whatever the outside temperature is. So, ideally it should be 45 degrees, but if it's 90 degrees out and you get it down to 60, that's pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll check it. Then I got in the mail one of these gadgets to jumpstart your car from cigarette lighter to cigarette lighter.
Yeah.
$30 a day.
It's if the battery in the dead car is dead because you left the lights on and you were able to plug it into the cigarette lighter, turn the key on in both cars, because a lot of cigarette lighters don't work when the key is off, and you had a lot of time on your hands, 8 or 10 hours later, the car would probably start. because you're only putting about 1.5 amps maybe from one cigarette lighter to the other cigarette lighter. So you're not putting a lot of current through to charge the dead battery up. And if the car with the bad battery has a dead cell in it, it's got no shot. So the better ones are the ones that are the little lithium-ion batteries that, they're the size of a paperback book that has a little cable that attaches to it, and you go right to the battery with it. I have one of those in each car, and the last time I used it, it worked better than I have a 500 amp Jumpstart box, and it actually worked better than the Jumpstart box did. So
how about that? Why do we have cigarette lighters in cars anyway?
Yeah, I mean, other than to plug in a cell phone or GPS or something.
They're not really cigarette lighters anymore.
They're just
the port.
They're 12-volt power points is what they actually call them. The only car that I've been in that has a cigarette lighter in it, most recently, was a Mercedes.
Rolls-Royce?
No, well, actually that did too. Rolls-Royce actually did have a cigarette lighter.
That I didn't get a call for?
Yeah. Rolls-Royce did actually have a cigarette lighter in it. But, yeah, Mercedes or BMWs, one of those actually had a real cigarette lighter in it. But, yeah, we don't, there's, in the United States, I guess, there's only about 10 or 15% of the population that still smokes, so.
Okay, John, thank you. And I still think you should be twins, though.
Really? Why?
Well, if somebody's on the line, they can get the other Paul to answer this question.
There you go. Good idea. Yeah. And my wife says 2 of me would be way too many. So. All right. Okay. All right. Thanks, John. Take care. Bye. Let's go over to Mike and Hingham. Michael.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Quick question. Would you own a car with a CVT transmission in it?
It would not be... Well, I shouldn't say that. For instance, Dennis's Nissan Rogue that he has now and the one he's getting both have CVTs, and he said good luck with them. Subaru, pretty much everything you buy from Subaru now has a CVT in it. When they first came out and they were first started getting popular back, a bunch of years ago, the CVT, for instance, in the Ford Taurus or whatever they called it back then, the 500, was awful. It was, you'd nail the accelerator and the throttle would feel about the same, the RPM would stay about the same, and it would vary the transmission, and it was just terrible. It was a terrible driving experience. Now they actually feel pretty good longevity-wise. Originally, when Nissan first came out with them, they weren't very good. They had a lot of problems with them. Then after a couple of years, the CVT and the Nissan products were the most dependable transmission they had. So we're seeing more and more dependability. I still sometimes I like to feel a transmission shift. It just makes me, there's a certain level of satisfaction when it goes from gear to gear, and you don't get that in a CVT.
I know they try to fake it, and they do that. But my concern, my brother has one, and he's worried now that he's getting 100,000 miles on it now. They used to have a reputation of about 100,000 miles. They about had it. You think the new ones are doing better than that?
I've seen them with well over 200,000 miles, and from talking to the people at Honda that have been using CVTs, and if you had to pick a weak spot in a Honda. Over the years, it's been the transmission, and I was talking to somebody from Honda, and they said they test the CVTs to 200,000 miles. So, I think they're okay. Again, that whole idea of it's a pretty simple system inside. It's basically a bunch of counter rotating pieces and belts, and not all that difficult, and so it. I think the system itself is simple and dependable, and now they're able to handle a lot higher horsepower. I remember the first CVT was, the one that was in the 3-cylinder Subaru Justy, because it only made about 80 horsepower and it wouldn't break it. Now, we see them in a lot of different cars, and they're pretty functional. So, in fact, a lot of people are saying the dependability of the CVT is better than the dual clutch, the DSG style transmissions that everybody from Porsche to Volkswagen to Ford used. Again, depending on what it was, the Ford one was less than stellar. The Volkswagen and others have been actually pretty good, but the CVTs, they're a little bit of a weight savings. They're definitely a little bit of a cost savings because there's less parts in them. A little less complicated, and I think when they work okay. And like I said, I've seen a bunch of 200,000-mile cars that had CVTs in them, and they seem to be operating just fine.
Okay. Well, that answers my question.
Okay.
Thank you very much
All right.
for my call. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye. 617-770-3030, 617-770-3030. Let's talk to Bob. Bob, good morning.
Hi, John Paul. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm the guy that called you about my wife's Liberty doing the front end over.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a lot of fun, John Paul.
It sounds like it was. I was under a Jeep this week, actually, a Jeep Wrangler, and I was looking at the rear suspension, and the perch where the rear spring sits on reminded me a little bit about what you were talking about, because it was rotted out, and I was looking at it,
it's unbelievable.
And I said to the guy that owns, he said, what do I do? And I said, I guess I just wait until it breaks and then find somebody who's got a piece that can fit in and just remount the spring. I said that, looking at this car, it's going to need shocks. So by the time you pull the shocks off, the springs are going to fall out anyway. And still, I will say this guy is one of my coworkers. He works in our finance department, and he is a pretty talented guy. In fact, he built a 2-car garage with a room over it attached to his house with a breezeway, and now he's building a big 3-season porch. He's doing all the stuff himself. He's also he went and got his contractor's license just so he had it. And he said to me, I don't know how to do rear brakes. And I'm like, you know how to cut stairs. You know how to cut roof joists. And you don't know how to do it. You don't know how to. And he's like, I'm telling you, I can't figure out how to do it. So I went over and helped him do it. And I got to tell you, I was I forgot how much fun it was to jack up a car and work on jack stands. Yeah. So so we got the brakes done, but while I was under there, I was looking at it, and it was pretty rusty. But then we took it out for a ride afterwards, and I can tell you, this one's a stick shift, and what a fun little vehicle to drive. And he says, I pretty much just leave the top off of it for most of the nice weather and enjoy it. So back to your Jeep.
Well, my wife loves it,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's got 70,000 miles on it. It's an 03, but underneath it looks prehistoric,
Yeah, they get pretty rusty, and this guy actually sent out for a kit and got some of the other pieces where the body mounts were. And he had somebody actually weld in these pieces so the body didn't shake and rattle, which made a huge difference. It actually tightened it up quite a bit. And
nice.
Yeah. So,
John Paul, I got a quick question. Once I get done this project, I'm going to work on. I got a '77 Vet. It's a 352 barrel.
Mm-hmm.
I can't afford a cob right now, but I was thinking of buying a kit for the cob.
Mm-hmm.
Change the floats and whatever else is in there. And what do you think? Have you done one?
Well, I mean, it's been a lot of years, but I always used to. I always used to rebuild them because at least I knew what I was getting. So if the throttle shaft didn't have any wear in it, the choke plate wasn't sticky. And it's just, pay attention. The only thing you have to do is pay attention to where the pieces go, and and you take the top off, you lift everything up, move it to one side, watch the metering rods for the jets to make sure that you don't bend them, or and they go back in the right spot. At the bottom of the float, you'll see the needle and seat. Make sure that that's good and clean, and there's a little jet at the bottom of that. You want to make sure that's good and clean. Don't try to take the choke plate off. A lot of people see the couple of screws that hold the choke plate on, and they'll say, "Oh, I want to take this off just to clean it." When you try to take the screws off, they'll break, and then you'll be stuck. So don't.
So which plate is that?
That's the actual choke that opens and closes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. The choke plate itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I do the same thing with the throttle plate. I just clean around it. For not a lot of money, you can actually go buy a little container of carburetor dip stuff, so you can actually dip the whole carburetor in it, let it sit there for.
That's a good idea.
For a couple of days.
Yeah.
They'll clean all the crap out of it that's in there,
that's nice. Yeah,
and then just kind of pay attention. If you get a little bit confused, take some pictures before you start to take it apart.
Oh yes.
Yeah. I find myself maybe as I'm getting older, or maybe as things, just because if I go to do some things now, I click a couple of pictures with my phone, just so I go, oh yeah, the red wire went here.
Oh yeah, I had trouble putting the half shaft back on because I was putting it in backwards.
Oh, okay, yeah, that'll do it. Yeah,
not the half shaft, but the tie rod shaft.
Yeah. So again, sometimes
pictures are great.
A couple pictures are good, and of course some of the other stuff on the web. But I find just taking a couple pictures. I know I was changing something one day, and I couldn't even barely see where it went, let alone figure out where it was, but I could get my phone back there to take a couple of pictures. Took the pictures afterwards, and then when I went to reassemble everything, I could kind of see where stuff was supposed to go, and it made all the difference in the world. Took it from work.
Yeah, that's a real good idea.
Okay.
Well, John, I'm getting a hesitation off a light. That's why I'm going through all this.
Oh, okay.
More than likely, it's the float sticking. Or
it could be a little bit lean. That's why you're getting it, so it could. And the other thing is the floats in those are you're probably used to seeing old brass floats. It's kind of a foamy looking thing that over time they'll tend to deteriorate. And then the float levels get all goofy. So mean, it can make a real difference. I remember years ago I had a personal car that had a carburetor on it. It always dieseled a little bit. When you shut it off, it always ran a little too lean. And rebuilt the carburetor. Thing was like a brand new car afterwards, and it was a pretty simple, again, not complicated. When I way back when I worked in a garage, and even some of the ones that people didn't like, the old Carter AFBs and the Quadrajets, you do a couple of them. All the parts make sense. If you reassemble a carburetor and you have to force something back together, you're doing it wrong. Everything
that ain't right.
Everything should
jump off the lean mixture. That's not the throttle mixture.
No,
right?
no, but
like to bring it up and down. That's not that one.
Yeah, no. There's going to be two screws, and maybe they're still covered over. But at the front of the carburetor, there's going to be two mixture screws that are going to help adjust the idle, and they may actually have caps over them, where you either they're made right into the base with like an aluminum cap that you can knock the cap out, or they have little plastic covers over them, so it limits how much you should have to move them. But once you get, the whole point is, once you get everything all clean and tight, it should pretty much go back the way it was. So you shouldn't have to really tinker with it.
How do I get the lean mixture, though, John Paul?
Well, it's going to be...
How do I hear that it's right?
Well, first off, it could be lean because one of the passageways is carboned up with gook. So you may find just cleaning it up, all of a sudden you put it back together and the thing runs great.
Okay.
If that's not the case, if you have to like crank the idle up a little higher because it's running rough, then you have to look at the fuel air mixture, the screws at the front of the carburetor that you'll you tighten them up and easily they can do and you back them up. And if you have no real tools, if you have either a vacuum gauge or a tachometer, you bring the fuel mixture screws in until you start to lose some of the RPM. Stop, do it a little bit at a time, stop, bring them back out so you just start to get the RPM back where it should be, and then maybe crank them in just a smidge, and then you're good to go. Same thing with the vacuum gauge. You can put a vacuum gauge on it, try to get the highest vacuum reading possible, and fuel air mixture should be close. But yeah, that's about all you need to do. But I would start by cleaning the carburetor up first, get it spotlessly clean. Like I said, spend the $20 or whatever for a dip tank. And that way you've cleaned all the junk out of the inside of the carburetor, and put the new kit parts in it, and you may find it's good to go. You don't have to do anything. You may find everything comes back just the way it's supposed to.
Oh, very good. Excellent.
All right.
Thanks for your help.
All right, take care.
Have a good weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
We need to take another break. I saw Johnny Costello wandering around the studio here. He's in the building. Somewhere. Right there. So, we need to take a break. We'll be right back. My name is John Paul. This is the Car Doctor program. We have about 10 minutes left if you would like to join us. 617-770-3030. 617-770-3030. We'll be right back.
Well, my time went so quickly, I went lickety-splitly out to my old 55. As I pulled away slowly, feeling so...
And welcome back to the Car Doctor program on AM 950 WROL. Well, here's something that I don't know if this appeals. Well, first off, it doesn't appeal to me at all. But Fiat Chrysler, so, Fiat, Jeep, Chrysler, Ram, their navigation screens are going to offer pizza and gas payments. So Domino's Pizza will soon be at your fingertips of the Fiat Chrysler automobile customers through the vehicle's Uconnect system. Fiat's jumping into the world of in-vehicle transactions in the second half of the year with Uconnect market, which will include users to order pizza, make restaurant reservations, pay for gasoline in select Shell stations, and pay for parking in garages through the touchscreen. Drivers will be able to schedule service at the local dealership. Let's see. The system is scalable, so if other merchants want to join Uconnect market, there'll be room, said Mike Novak, Uconnect's product marketing manager. We're open to exploration. We always want to reflect the needs of our customers. Food and fuel and parking are natural fits. Novak said beyond that, we're not excluding anything, but we want to make sure that it helps people. Do I really need to order pizza over my navigation system? Why?
Because if I am driving a long distance and I'm getting hungry and I'm like, oh, I could use some pizza, I could put it in there while I'm driving and get there when it's ready and sit down and eat pizza and go about my merry way. Are you kidding me? This is fantastic.
But Domino's?
I don't care about Domino's, but whatever.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it opens it. There's that thing, there's that one gas station that is allowing for Fast Pass users to use it, and it's supposed to expand further. That's, I mean, the gas one is, I don't understand why they just don't do that. Like, especially in cars nowadays.
I'm surprised that you can still use a non-chip credit card at a gas station. Because all the credit cards have, for security have chips in them, but they changed the rules a little bit to say it's under $50, so they don't need to put a chip system in. The problem is, I don't know, that's where you always hear the credit cards are compromised. So I would, if there was a way to be able to do it without taking a credit card out of your pocket or something, seems like, or pay cash. I know people don't pay cash anymore. But I
don't.
Well, I was talking to, this was a year or two ago, our security guy in our internet department, and he says when he buys stuff online, he uses prepaid debit cards only because he doesn't trust online merchants at all.
I haven't had anything happen yet.
Well, I have only had. I did have my credit card compromised. Apparently, I bought a couple of big screen TVs in Walmart and Worcester.
Wah, wah, wah. And that's actually a store. You didn't buy it online, right?
Apparently I didn't buy it online because I went to use my credit card and they said, "Oh, we shut it off because someone bought a couple of TVs at the Walmart in Worcester." And interestingly, the only
okay,
yeah,
what you're saying. Sorry.
Yeah, and the only way the only time I used that credit card online, this particular credit card, was I paid a parking ticket. So I think somewhere in that parking ticket payment system, someone grabbed my credit card. The other time my credit card got shut off was I was actually buying not a big screen TV, but a TV, and I was buying it in New Hampshire. And yes, maybe I was buying it up there to avoid paying the sales tax.
Nothing wrong with that.
But I went to go pay for it, and they're like, "I'm sorry, your credit card's no good." I'm like, "What do you mean it's no good?" So I called the credit card company. They said, "Yeah, we turned your credit card off due to suspicious activity." And they said, "Your credit card was used in Rhode Island to buy gas, Massachusetts to buy, I don't know, something, and liquor in New Hampshire, and now it's being used to buy a TV." And I'm like, "Yeah, that was all me." They said, "So you bought Slim Jims and a Red Bull?" And yes, I did. Yes, I did. So, and they said, "No, that's the way it is." So I don't know. I kind of look at this stuff and go, I don't know how convenient it is. Hey, there's our buddy Johnny Costello.
Hi.
Hi.
I listened to your whole program today.
Did you really?
I did indeed.
I was at
it's fascinating. It's great stuff.
There's nothing.
Well, I drive a '97 Toyota Camry, so I'm going to listen to you all the time.
It looks great. It looks great out there, by the way.
You see it.
I saw it. Yeah.
The window doesn't roll up, so
yeah, well.
I have wet knickers on right now, and I don't know what to do about that because the gentleman that looks at my car, he said that there's a motor in the thing, and he went to the junkyard, found another one, put it in. He can't figure out what the heck is wrong with it. So. Other than that, the car runs like a gem. It does. She's a beaut.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's either the switch or the wiring going to the motor. So
yeah.
But I was at the Arlington. I think it's the Arlington Retired Men's Club of Arlington today, and this guy comes over.
Not today.
Well, not today. This week.
Although they probably do get up early if they're retired, right?
Yeah. And they actually have about 400 members, and about 100 show up at meetings. And I was there doing something, and a guy comes over in a WROL shirt.
No way.
And and he's one of our regular listeners, Connie.
Sure.
Yeah.
Connie Murphy.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
The guy's a legend.
Yeah. And he used to work here once.
Yeah,
years
of course.
ago.
Yeah.
And he said, the last time you talked about me, he said, I was at Fenway Park and you and Paul Sullivan were talking about me.
Wow.
And I was listening on the radio. So Connie might be listening right now.
He is. He's definitely. Hello, Mr. Murphy.
Yeah. So, and what a nice guy. And he speaks very highly of you.
Wow,
yeah.
me?
Yeah, he knows you too. He knows you too.
That's fun.
Yeah,
'cause I'm one of the newer guys.
Yeah.
Hey, Den, you know what's funny is when I was driving in, or coming in, I think I was getting dressed at the time when John was talking about.
You were driving and getting dressed?
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah.
With multiple jobs, I have mastered the craft of changing out of the costumes. That he pays money for pod beans. Yeah, pod beans. I think I've spent many of shekels on pod beans in the past.
Well, yes. Yeah, maybe. Maybe something like that, but yeah.
So I'm filling in for B3, who is filling in for Paul Sullivan. So you're stuck with me for the next 3 hours before Marvelous Matt O'Donnell.
And Marvelous Matt was here last week. He was here early because there was all kinds of stuff going on
Madness
over the weekend.
Going on. But we wish John Paul, Professor Paul, good luck. I know he's got some time off, and we all wish him and root him luck.
Yeah. We did. We love Paul. We love the station here, and you're going to be here playing Irish music for 3 hours.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
I love this.
Yeah, yeah. This is it's great when I see whether it's you because you bring all this energy and Bobby when he brings all this energy or Paul brings this kind of calm, he's like this calm energy. He's like,
I know.
Yeah.
And he's brilliant, but he's just such a legend. He just comes in and just does his thing, and he's got tens of thousands of listeners. Everywhere I go, they're like, oh, I love Paul. Everybody loves Paul. He's just so laid back.
But he has this, and he used to do this commercial where it was, you're in the parlor with the wood stove going, and, and you really felt like you were there. It was good.
With the turf smell, of course.
Yeah, and which doesn't smell that good. I'm sorry.
Well, no, but the Irish love it. So can we just acquiesce, please? They're all listening now. It's 10:01.
All right.
We love the turf smell.
Yeah, we do. There's nothing like some good turf burning in the wood stove. Until next week, make sure you wear your seatbelt, drive safely, be good to your car. Stay tuned for the very best in Irish music with our buddy Johnny the Rooster Costello filling in. Bye-bye.
Poor old Dicey Riley, she is taken to the sup.